Hello there guys, and welcome to Mad Doc Minis. In this video I'm going to be talking about drop pods. You can see the original Space Marine drop pod in this footage here. GW recently announced that they are bringing out a new updated drop pod, but it's more of a gaming piece really. It's not a proper model. The doors do not open and close, they stay open. You sit it on the tabletop. The argument is you're always going to have the doors open when it's on the tabletop. I kind of know that, but I'm not a gamer, and this is a kind of disaster for me. I like the idea of having opening doors. Also, it takes up less space on a shelf if you're storing it as well. I do like the fact that they've shortened the doors. I think that's really sensible because it takes up less of a footprint. And I love what they've done with the interior, simplifying it and getting rid of that ridiculous revolving turret. But I would like to add my own kind of slant to this. So I'm taking an original drop pod, an old one, and building it the way I wish GW had modified it, basically. I'm not being very eloquent here, guys, but that's what I'm going to do. This thing was not put together by me. This is secondhand off of eBay. I did put the magnets in the top, which you'll have to ignore. But the thing has been put together quite badly. It's been put together with plastic cement, which is correct, but the trouble is that makes it hard to pull apart and modify. But it is definitely off kilter, which I can't really do much about without trashing the thing. But I decide to take out the kind of innards of this drop pod to start with. So I get a pair of pliers and rip out that central column. Now that takes a little bit of work because, you know, plastic cement. But it does come out in the end without too much fuss, which I was grateful for. I'm not too careful with this either. Just rip all that out. And once that's clear, we're left with a kind of a little raised area right in the middle where that central column attaches to. And that's going to come out as well. I get rid of that thing there, look. All right. And I just get the hobby snips in there and and cut the thing out. There's really no finesse to this, guys. This is very, very rough and ready. If you're new here, this is what it's all about. I'm not really refined in what I do, but I just give that a bit of a trim down with a sharp hobby knife to make a nice flat surface in there and give it a final sand as well, just to kind of tidy it up as much as I can for the next phases. So this is kind of what I'm left with, which is a really nice flat surface and a little bit tidier than it was, getting rid of any kind of residual glue and things like that. So that's good. I do ponder what to do with this. I'm not going to be putting the central column back in. It's too crowded in there for my liking, but I am going to use the kind of harnesses for the Space Marines. I'm going to probably chop those up and use them in a different way. I will put that central column into my bits box though. It's nicely detailed and it will come in handy for something. Now I'm going to get rid of this here. This is kind of like the turret mount. There's a turret that kind of hangs down from the top and rotates. And I'm glad they got rid of that and in the new one. And I'm going to get rid of that kind of mount in here as well to create a little bit more space. Once again, a bit of a rough hack job really, guys. I use the hobby snips to come in and get rid of it. And, you know, this is because the thing's already constructed, remember. If you were starting from scratch, it would be easier. But remember, this kit has been discontinued. So you're going to be hard pressed to get one that hasn't been constructed. So I'm trying to be as realistic as I can here about how I'm going about this. You know, chances are if you get hold of one, it's going to be already built and it's going to be put together quite badly like this one. And I give that a bit of a sand down on the top end as well there to flatten that off, much like I did with the floor. But these things were never considered easy to put together. So a lot of them, when you buy them secondhand, they are a bit wonky and yeah, it's just the kind of nature of it. People tend to refer to it as a bit of a hellscape to kind of construct. But I do cut a little bit of cardstock out. I draw around a 32mm base, cut that out, and I stick that down in the middle of the floor to cover that hole that I've made in the middle there. And I put the fibrous side down and the smooth side up, and that'll present a much nicer surface for painting and make a much nicer finish to the thing. So I'm just a bit careful about getting that quite central because I don't want to obscure any of the nice detail on the floor in there if I can help it. I just super glue that down, really simple. I then consider a little bit more about what I'm going to do with the harnesses. I can't really do too much with them right this second, but I do trim them down and have a little bit of a play around off screen about where I'm going to put them, because I want these things to be able to accommodate the Primaris physique. So I'm going to need to kind of raise them up a little bit because they just look too short at the moment if you slot them in where they're supposed to go. So I'm going to kind of raise them up. You see what I do a bit later on in the video, but I'm just having a play around at this phase before I kind of make any decisions. But you can see there, way too short for my Primaris Marine, and he's actually off the base, that one as well, and it just doesn't read right. So I really want to do something about that. Now, what I do next, before I do any other delicate work, is I chop off the doors along this line here, and I do that with a hobby saw. I try to get as straight an edge as I can, following that kind of groove, that line, that natural line that we've got there. And for the most part, that's fine. It's not perfect. You could probably do a much more refined job than me if you were doing this, but that's what I did, guys. I just sawed through that area because I really want to carry those shortened doors from the new drop pod through onto my own conversions. I do think that is a sensible idea. So that's kind of what I end up with. That's the kind of rough end of things. Of course, I do tidy that up with a sharp blade and a bit of sanding afterwards, but that'll produce a much smaller footprint on the tabletop, which I just think is, it just makes sense to me to have done that. So I think that was one good thing they did do with it. And I do keep hold of these offcuts because we're going to need those. So that's kind of what it looks like when the doors are all trimmed down. And next I kind of trim down this bit of detail, and it's not that I don't like the detail on the inside of the doors, but because this thing has been put together in wonky fashion, the doors don't close very well. So I just trim the kind of sides of those doors down so they'll shut a little bit easier and kind of stay shut. That's the idea anyway. So lots of shaving, lots of tweaking, trying to make this thing work a bit better than it does. Yeah, it really wasn't put together very well, but I don't think I can really blame the previous person because they are quite tough kits to put together anyway. I make this kind of sub-assembly of magnets inside a plastic lid, and that is going to actually go up inside the drop pod, and I put magnets inside the doors, and this will help the doors to stay shut. So I'm magnetizing the doors here. I make a little structure inside with a bit of tubing and some lids and things, and you can see the magnets on the inside of the lid there just have enough pull just to secure those doors shut and stay shut. So that's good. I'm happy with that because obviously the doors flap around on these things a bit and I don't really like that. This is what I did with the harnesses. I raised them up on a little bit of EPVC and now they are actually Primaris sized harnesses. By the way, there's no way in hell you'd get 2 Space Marines in each of these compartments, but there's a bit of artistic license going on with the original design of the drop pod anyway, to be honest, but it just reads a little bit better and the scale is a bit more appropriate for the Primaris Space Marines. They're bigger units, aren't they, really? So that's kind of what it looks like, guys, and that's the kind of main conversion, really. I do put in these kind of auto launchers. These are from the Horus Heresy vehicle kits, and I had enough of those to put them in each one, so they're kind of static, and I think that's a much more sensible option. I then put on those kind of offcuts that I have at the top there. Now, after a basic paint job, this thing's looking a hell of a lot better. Strategic painting, you see the red finishes at the line that I cut, so it kind of takes the eye away a little bit from how rough cut this thing really is. And I'm going to open one door so you can see it open with a single door so you can get an idea of the feel of this thing. So I'm kind of quite happy with it, and I like the idea of those static frag launchers. I think that makes a lot more sense than a rotating turret, and I wish they had incorporated something like that on the new one. Here's with all the doors open. It's not perfect, guys. It's a bit wonky. It's a bit rough. That's me, basically. But look, if you've enjoyed the content, please consider liking and sharing. It really does help my little channel to grow. And if you are not already subscribed, please consider giving us a sub. What are your thoughts on the new drop pod? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you wish they'd done something different? Or do you think what they did was right? I'm really keen to hear your thoughts, guys. Put it in the comments below. Let's get a convo going. And thanks ever so much for joining me in this video. I will catch you in another one soon. Take care.